Hello, 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 everyone. How are we all? Are we well? Let's just wait a little bit for some folks to get online. Now, thank you very much, folks. Hello, I hope you're all well. We are going to be talking about today dimensions, as in different dimensions, and ascension, and also ascension symptoms. What are they? And how we can navigate these during these times at the moment as well, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. I am blessed to, or gifted, should I say, I need to stop saying that word, to have a wonderful lady called Emma joining me. So bear with me one moment and I will just get her on board now. Hello, 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 everyone. Hey,
Hello. Hello.
how
you
are
doing
we?
today? I'm really good, my darling. How are you? You're looking so well.
So are you, my darling. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Beautiful goddess.
My beautiful goddess. So, this is a juicy one for me, especially today, because today is, I don't know if anybody knows, today, when we add up the numbers, it's a portal opening day. So today is 11 plus 1, and then the year is 5. So that's 8. And 8 is a very definitive sign. It's the infinity. Some people will turn it on its side. It's part of the infinity forever sign. And at the moment, I've realized that today is a very big day, I've discovered, for manifestation as well. So if anybody wants to put that into practice today, it's your day. Not that any other day isn't, because time is fluid and we're able to manifest any moment that we want to. So, Emma, we are going to talk about dimensions. A lot of people at the moment are wondering, I think, especially like people see memes flying about and they're like, oh, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, etc., etc. And I think some people get a bit confused or just think, oh, what's all this poppycock, so to speak, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your, first of all, I'm going to start with the definition of the word dimension. It's quite funny. I found 2 of them, okay? And the
Okay,
first
cool.
one is a measurable extent of a particular kind, such as length, breadth, depth, or length. So obviously, a box, something like this, something solid, that's a
Mm-hmm.
dimension,
Mm.
okay? Or the alternative is an aspect or a feature of a situation. It's quite interesting.
Mm. Never really
So,
thought of it that way.
in your experience, what would, like, or your interpretation, because remember, nothing's right and nothing's wrong in the world. So, what,
Mm.
when it comes to dimensions, what's your perception?
Well, when I think of dimensions, I think of my state of consciousness and the levels of consciousness of others. So
Mm-hmm.
when I think of like the 3D consciousness, which was probably me about 10 years ago, when I was constantly in the thinky mind, constantly in fear and doubt,
Mm-hmm.
and in struggle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have pockets of happiness, but then it would be short lived, and I was always living in the head. So the concept of 3D consciousness didn't really find me until probably last year. So this
Interesting.
this thing is all new to me. Not the actual ascending to where I am now, but the actual concept of the 3D consciousness and like the 5, the 60 consciousness. So I guess how I measure it, because the first time I've ever come across it was to measure it in the form of consciousness levels.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Interesting.
but I get a lot of people ask, Jen, I mean, how do you know? I mean, in your experience, how do you know if you're in 3D, 4D? Maybe if we could start with that. How do you
Okay,
know if you're in the 4D?
so let's start
4D?
with 3D. Let's just break it down, and because today we're only going to go from 3 to 5, because
Okay.
on record there have been a recorded up to 12 dimensions, i.e. on record on Earth. Yeah, so the majority of people know 3, 4, 5. Some of us have been lucky to have experienced beyond that. I myself, I think I might have been between 7 and 8 at one point, but obviously, like with everything in life, sometimes we get pulled back into different dimensions.
Yeah.
So let's start with 3D. 3D is very ego driven. It's service to yourself, as in you're just caring about yourself because it's the plane that we live on. It's duality. It's I've seen things either black and white, no middle ground. Polarization. So you're just completely reacting to everything that you have, your polar opposite. Labeling, giving people labels, control, rules, status, materialism. Let's think. It's dense, it's slower moving, it's heavier moving. You have linear thinking. So linear thinking is just literally one way. Like there's no like this is my way and that's my way and anyone else's opinion, no, it's still my way, you know. Fear.
We know a few people like that.
Fear and lower based emotions. So also fear-based programming. Don't know if that sounds familiar, folks.
Can I just stop you just for a second? I mean,
yeah, of course
I think it's very important on the spiritual journey to not get into the hierarchies of the ascension levels, isn't it? Because I think sometimes people, if they're in the fifth, they can be pulled back into the third.
100%.
Actually thinking like, oh, they're in the third dimension, you know.
God, no. What I normally say, 100%, and that's a really good thing. What the analogy that I always give, because some people are always like, oh, you think you're above just because it's that way round. But what we have to think of, it's a frequency, it's a sound. So I always give the analogy, Emma, that think of yourself as an old school radio channel, and it's literally one line. Yeah. Except for we're just on different channels. There's no above, there's no below. We're just on a different channel. Yeah. And that is just due to our own experiences, our own knowledge, our own learning, sharing, observation, and all that jazz as well, you know. And when I'm talking about fear-based programming, I'm talking about what's going on outside, not people individually, you know, because I don't judge people. I don't believe anyone should judge anyone.
Going on at the moment in the 3D.
Exactly. So materialism, like I said, and what else have we got? Cause and effect. So basically someone will cause something and an effect will come back straight away, and it's always someone else's fault. And victim mentality as well is heavily 3D based. So I hope that gives some people some idea of
really good analogy of it.
Where they are when it comes to the 3D side of things. Now, Ascension, i.e. when we start becoming more aware and then moving channel, we can call it leveling up, don't get me wrong, but also like it's not a hierarchy thing like Emma and I have just already said. So therefore
people do get into this hierarchy thing, don't they?
There are a lot of people that do that, you know. There's a lot of people that jump on the whole spiritual bandwagon and half of them are not even practicing what they preach in. Do you know what I mean? So let's keep it real here, you know. Exactly. And that's really frustrating for those of us who are authentic within our beings and ourselves. So when you do change channel, and it's called Ascension, but Ascension is not to be confused with spiritual awakening. They are not the same. They're completely different. But that will be saved for another conversation. Because there's only so much information we could give people in one day.
Awesome.
So, 4D. So 4D is a mixed state of minds. So sometimes you might be thinking in a 3D manner, because this is when you're just almost transitioning in between channels. And then 5D is like more unity consciousness. So therefore, when you're in 4D, you're more like you're becoming a conscious being. You are changing your old beliefs, and you're willing and open to change your not only your thinking, your programming, the way that you act. Your consciousness starts to expand. You realize there isn't no duality. There is just like, it is what it is. You start looking for answers. You're seeking answers. A lot of people would have started doing that, especially like a lot of people said the age of Aquarius came in the 21st of December, Emma, but the actual fact was from the 21st of June, that's when the energy started hitting in. And that's why from June to the end of December, so many people worldwide started to, as they like to call it, I don't like the word wake because it reminds me of funeral, but they started to realize, that's a better choice of words, that like something's not right here. What's actually going on in the world? Am I this being that's been created, or am I something more?
And attitudes as well started to change. I seen a collective change in attitudes towards the whole situation at the moment, towards the crisis. I started to hear things from people outside the spiritual circles actually talking about what people in the spiritual circles were talking about. So I seen the change in the collective consciousness working with a few people, you know. So yeah, it's definitely right what you're saying, like from July.
So like that kind of kicked in. And then more of 4D, when we're transitioning to 3, is like people start becoming more compassionate. They start in a standing, like, because there's understanding, overstanding. I prefer myself in a standing because I like to feel like I'm understanding from the inside. So you start to then want to align with, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Also, you start remembering. Some people start having like, you know, we can start, if we start doing the work on ourselves, we might end up having like a past life experience, you know, or have a clip to something that might have happened or triggered within our DNA, within our bloodline, or stuff like this, you know. Or even thinking like, I'm sure that I've maybe been here before, or did I come from somewhere else? Synchronicity you start coming into, which is great stuff, and that's great fun, but it's hella scary when you first start coming into that, because you're like, whoa, what's happening here? Like, and as we know now, it's just like that is the general movement of life. But before it, like, they say this word and it's coincidence. Folks, let me tell you now, there are no coincidences whatsoever in life. There's only synchronicities, and what I like to call synchro destiny, which is a bit like we have our fate already mapped out for us, so therefore our synchronized destiny, synchro destiny. Flexible reality, so not just believing the reality that's been portrayed out there all these years from the 3D perspective. Faster manifestation, because once you start tapping into your raising your vibration, because you'll start realizing, hang on a second, I'm not supposed to be a victim, I'm not supposed to be miserable, I'm not supposed to be all these things. And then once we start raising our vibration, which is our part of our frequency, we can then learn about the powers of manifestation and creating what we need to in life and all that good stuff, and just becoming more connected with ourselves, with whatever source that we feel that we're connected to, with other people, compassion again, with our planet, with other beings, you know, just it's a general overall, I'm not alone, like there's more of us. And what you might find is when you start transitioning, some people, they transition heavily from 3D to 4D to 5D, and quite quickly. However, can often start, like, literally you could be doing this for a bit, but however, those that have a spiritual awakening, the way that's different is you'll get it's almost like a massive mind-blown epiphany, and then you'll just want to hold yourself up for like, because you're just almost like, this, what is this, like, am I sitting in the middle of a horror show? What the hell is going on? So yeah, so that's 3D.
And
that's
that can
4D.
kind of like, when you have a spiritual awakening, you have this like massive expansion experience, but then it contracts again, and you feel like you've gone back to how you was, but actually you haven't. But it's just how the universe works. It's expanding and it's coming back in again all the time. I find that word really hard to say. Contracting.
Said it brilliantly.
Contracting.
Yeah, contracting. There you go.
That's the word. Dyslexia. Yes. So it's kind of like you're expanding and then contracting and expanding and contracting. But once you get out of that 4D, 5D consciousness, there's no going back, is there?
No,
even though you might dip into it.
Yeah.
And you get pulled back into that now and again, you have to get yourself out, but you can't go back.
No, because the whole essence, and that's very well said, Emma, cheers, the whole essence of when we change channel is we start becoming more authentic, we start becoming our own being more, we start becoming our true self. So we get, the only times we get pulled back is normally due to family, due to work, due to friends, because what happens is our life is like, we might have been someone that used to go out, socialize, do whatever, because I was happily, I used to go out, clubbing, drugs, drink, a lot of it, like, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, like, and touch wood, someone was watching over me. However,
did you find that you, sorry, go on.
Sorry, honey. I was just gonna say, like, when I started transitioning, it like literally turns into a horror movie. Like, I used to go out with my friends, and I used to be like, we used to always be, never leave someone, you know, always let someone know when you're leaving and all this jazz. And I was the first one to be saying these things. And then when I started transitioning, oh my gosh, Emma, I was going into the club and people might be aesthetically looking beautiful, but I was seeing their soul. And it was like I was seeing demons. And I was just like, what the hell is going on here? So I used to run out the club, like literally get in within an hour or two, where I was the last one normally partying and going to the after party. Do you know what I mean? Because I was just like, I couldn't comprehend what was happening. And then I just took myself out of the equation because it was too intense for me. It was too much for me back then because I didn't know how to handle my own energies. And integration and being gentle on yourself is a really challenging aspect of the expansion and contraction that you mentioned. So you was going to say, sorry, hon.
I think when you're ascending as well, drugs and drink don't sit in the body like they used to. It kind of your body starts to reject it, and if you don't listen to what you're being pulled towards, you start to feel like every time you indulge in these activities that things just start crashing down on you. Because I found every time I went out and got off my head, something really bad would happen, like every single time. And these knocks were getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And it was like something was saying, you don't do this. You're not going in this direction. It's like, it's now or never kind of thing. That was the feeling that I got, you know, and those days are gone for me. I mean, I used to love partying just like you. But what I was going to ask you, Jenny, I get this asked all the time. It's like, how, when you're like ascending into higher states of consciousness, you start to lose some of the people, friendships that you've been in for years. They start to disappear. And then you can start to feel lonely and isolated. So if you could if there's any advice that you could give somebody that's transitioning into 4D, and if they're feeling quite lonely, you know, in their friendship groups or in their family groups, I mean, how would you survive being a 5D person in a 3D environment?
Well, for me,
with your family or something.
Yeah, I totally like. That's a good question, Em. Like, my personal experience was because I had awakening when I got back from going away, and I was already transitioning like between 3 and 4, kind of like I had a transition and then I came back, if that made sense, and had a massive awakening along with the transition. So it was very straight, like you can have both, and I did have both. So for me, like when I was indoors, I actually, do you know what? This was a very good tool. Instagram was a very good tool. Not only was I starting to research about it, just generally about the dimensions and what was I feeling and what was it, and nothing really online showed me. So then I started to like hashtag certain, you know, the word spiritual, the word certain words that would go, and then I'd find certain pages online, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, this sounds like me. Oh, okay, that sounds like me. And then I ended up, you know, sometimes you can just send a message or send a voice note, and then people normally reply, and you'll normally then find your soul family will connect you on that frequency. And then it got to the point that I was like, oh, I've got no one at home. Everyone lives in all over the world, but I've got no one here. And that's why I'm really actually great. Like one of my greatest gifts about being back in the UK for so long, because I've not been in the country this long for over 15 years, is the fact that I have found so much of my soul family over in the UK now. So I'm really, really grateful for that. So yeah, for me, I would say like use your social media tools, you know, do some research, get some books maybe out.
If you're actually like living with your family, I mean, it's okay sometimes, because if you're living on your own, then you know you can just like visit your family for a few hours and then come back to your own environment and do your spiritual stuff, you know. But if there was somebody living in that environment and they're absorbing that energy and feeling all of that unprocessed anger, fear, and they're living around it, especially if they're highly sensitive or empaths, I mean, how would you deal with that when you're in that environment itself, like living?
So again, for me personally, like I am, as we know, again, I'm a researcher, so I would just go and start researching ways to be able at home to cope with these things, you know. Like we as empaths know Epsom salt baths with some lavender and bicarbonate soda is amazing for detoxing us. Add that with some Epsom salts and then some lavender, which will calm us down at the same time. So if you're having to live in that situation, if you haven't got a bath, then obviously invest in some and just rub it on your skin. Also, other methods, like find someone maybe that will help you with breath work, or look online on YouTube and do some breath work as well. I would recommend, because you might find sometimes it might bring up some anxiety, because then you'll start going into fear of the unknown. And of course, if your mind has always been in control mode, i.e. 3D mode, then shifting, you get a bit like, oh, what's going on? I can't control it, or what have you. And that can set on anxiety as well as the pressures of whoever you're living with inside the house. Also, very well said, exactly, Gabriella. Thank you, George. Find a creative outlet as well. 100%. Like you might want to decide, okay, like certain people that I've suggested to, crystals, like get into crystals, they're amazing. Like tarot cards, you might want to draw, you might want to dance, you might just want to sing it out, because it's a good way to release the emotions. But yeah, I would just always be compassionate on your own soul. I will always keep coming back to this, because we have been taught and conditioned, even though 3D says service to self. Service to self means to buy and do stuff for ourselves, but not actually look after our inner self, you know? Like the 3D is based on the outer. It's not about the core inner of our being. And when we're doing this transitioning, the core inner of our being is where it's at, and how we are able to evolve and change channel. Because if we're not being loving and compassionate to ourselves, I always say every projection is a reflection, and vice versa. So yeah, what would you say, Em? What would you suggest to people?
Well, I think to live with a family or in a social group that are not in alignment with who you are can be really difficult. And it's, I mean, you can take yourself out of a social group, but you can't take yourself, sometimes if you're living with your family, you can't take yourself out of that environment. And I know a lot of people use protection mechanisms to protect their energy. And there are things that people can do that, if you're, say, having a conversation with someone and you're talking in your wonderful, beautiful, spiritual way, and somebody like, I mean, I'm the one in the family that's the spiritual one, you know, and I'll start talking about something, and they'll looking at me, and they'll just start to, like, you know, zone out kind of thing, or they just start talking at me, and it's just like, oh, I really don't want to get into this conversation. What I find works is when I just do this, like this kind of thing, like not folding the arms, but like breaking the energy.
Yeah.
So, and I try and do it in a subtle way, so I'm not like giving it all that, you know? So I just kind of just do this, and it cuts the energy, breaks the state, and it cuts that energy between you. But also, I think just like closing your eyes, inhaling the energy of the earth up the chakra system, and then pushing out the heart chakra, pushing all the energy out the heart chakra, and
like a Care Bear,
like a Care Bear, like a
always. That's why I've got cold hands. That's why I tell people, they say, why you got cold hands? I said, because all my heart's warm. I'm a Care Bear. Come on.
You are.
So are you.
Thank you. Yes.
Together.
Yes. Push it all out. So it's actually just pushing it away. I mean,
I think that is really well recommended. Cheers. Like somebody else has put something really valuable as well, like hugging trees. I know it sounds crazy, but ground. Go out and take those shoes and socks off. If you've got a garden or a patch of earth somewhere, go out, take them off, and literally walk around, because earthing can neutralize so much energy, like even just like from when we're around everything electronic or anything like this. Like you said, hugging a tree as well. Look, when I come down to you, or it's just like, I need to hug the tree, like literally, because I wanted to take my boots off, but it was too cold. So if it's too cold and you can't take your shoes off, hug the tree. It literally will look after you. You can feel the heartbeat and the connection of the beautiful earth.
What is it about the tree? I mean, even looking at a tree can lift you. Just looking at it and just drinking it in, it's beautiful. It's such a great way of describing it. It's lovely. Just to hug a tree. Why not?
So for those that then decide that, like, okay, so we know what 3D is now. We know what 5D is. 4D is now. So for those that are then like, okay, so what's 5D? Because I feel that I could be somewhere in the middle, but what is there next? So 5D is more like unity consciousness. Is actually realizing that there is no separation. Yeah, that we are all one. That we are aligned with the divine, whoever you feel that divine source is with. Everything, as Emma just said, is heart-centered, which is lovely, beautiful. Yeah, service to others. You know, you automatically, for empaths anyway, we're always putting out service to others, and also for many of us, we always think of others. However, the 3D programming is more like you're looking after yourself rather than looking after everyone else, because there's no in between. That's why sometimes I might get really frustrated, like when people say we are the 99%, because it's like, we know what the 1% are doing, but really and truly, there is no separation, you know, because any of us can be good and bad at any time. Yeah. So I think sometimes people need to remember that, and remember that the same way that someone can be bad is the same way that someone can be good. We all have it within us. Connectedness, you know, with ourselves, with each other, again, higher frequencies, just generally you're living a happier life, because once you start knowing your mindset and once you start tapping into the powers of manifestation, you know that if you are manifesting, like, right, folks, when it comes to manifestation, if your vibration is low, it will take so much longer for that manifestation or for whatever you are wishing to come into fruition, it will take so much slower. However, if you're happier and you're just more positive and generally within yourself, it just speeds. It's fast. And then when it's genuine, literally the divine can feel that. And also, when I've said this before in another video, your thoughts, your words, your feelings and your actions need to all be in alignment for that. Okay, authenticity is 5D. Learning to be your true self unapologetically. I don't know about you, Emma, but in my family, I was always, and in life, I was always the messenger who was getting shot. Yeah, I was always that messenger. And for that, I will always live unapologetically for and gratefully for, because a lot of people, you'll tend to find messengers will transition into these frequencies faster than anybody else. And I think the reason why is it's all a part of the authenticity as well. Abundance, because once you start tapping into your manifestation, you'll start realizing that you are the trees, you are the sand, you are the sea, you are the earth, and it is limitless. And so are we. Flow state, just making sure you are on a neutral flow. This is very interesting as well, like, our emotions is the one thing that everybody targets on us. But those of us who learn to go above our emotions, i.e. enjoy our emotions, but don't be attached to our emotions, are in the happiest, most blissful state there is. Because as we know, dark, light, good, bad, etc., etc. However, if we go really ecstatically happy, whether we like it or not, the seesaw is going to automatically, by the natural balance on order of the universe, is going to do something to make us also be sad. So we have to try and be like, okay, I am happy, however, just enjoy it, but then almost be detached from it. It's quite an artistic skill to learn. It is.
It's with going back to manifestation, setting intentions and like letting go of the outcome and letting go of the want of it. So the energy of want is quite low down on the energetic scale. So when we want something, it's difficult, because if we really want something, we want it, but we have to let go of the neediness and the craviness around what we want. So it's kind of like just letting go of the want and completely surrendering the control of the outcome. And just allowing it. I think when we want something, we have to allow ourselves that needy feeling. And just like breathe in, like, oh, I'm allowing this, and that's how we relinquish that attachment to the emotions. It's just to allow, just fucking allow,
just to be. Exactly. Just allowing. That is so beautifully said, like, your senses are more like activated as well when we're in 5D as well. Just generally, you will then start connecting with the divine once you start going into 5 and above. So for me, for instance, I know when my angels are near, I get massive twinkles at the side of my eyes as confirmations when I'm doing stuff now. I'll sometimes, like the whole of December, I was having like do, 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 do in my ear, and I was thinking, what is that all about? Yeah,
your angels talking to you.
That was my angels talking to me, but I had never had that noise before them. So first of all, I was like, is there something wrong? And first of all, I was like, this is not a heartbeat. And then I was like, is there actually something in my ear? You know, but this is all part and parcel of Ascension symptoms. Knowing that you are a co-creator is also part of 5D, because again, like you said, Emma, surrendering into flow, manifestation, effortlessness, realizing that we are light, realizing that life is actually at ease, and just having general universal knowledge. Because the more that you start learning along this journey, the more that you start realizing, like, oh, I'm not alone. And then the moment, even if you're someone that feels lonely and are living alone, you can never be lonely.
No.
Once you hit into 5D, you're never lonely, because you know, like, oh, you could be like, oh, I miss company, I miss
Yeah.
human
Human,
presence and
normal. Yeah.
interaction. But you can never be alone, because
No.
you know that you are the trees,
Part of
the
everything.
sea, that everything's interconnected. So yeah, I'll just answer those questions at the end, Stacey. No problem, darling. Anything else, Em?
There's just
You
one more
should
thing.
talk about Ascension Symptoms.
Oh,
Talking of which, right?
Let's talk about that.
Okay,
Let's talk
hun.
about
So
that.
for you, let's hear about your experience.
Oh my God. Okay, in a nutshell, I knew I got to 35 and I knew I had the house, had the car, I had everything that we are programmed to want. And then I got to that point and it was like, I've got everything. What else is there? And that was the first step into moving into spirituality for me. So ascension for me usually comes in forms of diversity. So if I'm going through a hard time, like heartbreak is my subject, I've lived through many, but it's all been part of my ascension journey to get to the level of consciousness that I am now. So for me, the ascension symptoms are diversity. Well, it's not really a symptom, it's like the cause of the symptom. Diversity, heartbreak, fear and grief, anything like this can ascend us to the next level. But when we're in it, we don't feel like we're ascending. We feel like we're going nowhere. We feel like we're stuck. But it's kind of like trusting in the process, like a cocoon. When we're going through grief, fear, anxiety, all of this stuff, we're in like a cocoon and we're just cooking. So, but once we get out of, maybe if someone's gone through a heartbreak or if they're going through a grief, once they get to the other side, then the ascension symptoms can be lots of different things. Feeling tired, purging, thinking of things that happened years ago. And like, you're thinking about something when you were 13 and then all of a sudden you're being triggered by something and then you're actually going through it. So there's lots of different things. I think it's different for everyone. How is it with you, Jen?
That's really well said, and what you'll normally find as well, you just made me realize that a lot of people that are going through something majorly traumatic, like heartbreak, can be quite traumatic for people, along with death, along with just a change of circumstance that is quite a negative one. You'll tend to find a lot of people will have a spiritual awakening at that point as well, not just with the changing of ascension into different symptoms. I personally, my journey's now been about over 10 years as well, like you. So it's like I had bouts of flu where I'd be out for ages. That's when I started going off of certain foods as well, like you've had started to, and quite a few people around me have done in the last 6 months as well.
Gone veggie.
Yeah, because you start realizing that you're interconnected, and sometimes you'll start having visions about certain things, or you can taste the actual what happens with that animal's life, which is the most messed up thing, especially when you're someone. I used to absolutely adore eating, I shouldn't say that, but I used to enjoy eating animal products.
Jen, I mean, the amount of people, I've lost count, the amount of people that have spoke to me and said, I've just gone off meat. So that's like another clue of the collective consciousness rising, because I've had so many people that said, I've ate meat all my life, and I've just got shivers up my arm when I said that.
Confirmation, by the way, that's an ascension confirmation. That's a guide confirmation.
It's a guide confirmation. It's not an ascending.
I just said it's a guide. I just said that after ascension. Sorry, honey.
Sorry. You cut out just for a second. So a lot of people are saying this to me lately. I've just gone off meat, and I went off meat 3 months ago, and I've always been a meat eater. But the amount of people that said that, so you've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, but then also you've got other symptoms as well, and you've got, like, if people don't talk up, they'll get sore throat and they'll get throat infection, and that's their throat chakra blocked. So that can be an ascension symptom. Major headaches in the crown of your head, those are ascension symptoms. Flu, shivers, heart palpitations. I know someone personally, I'm not going to say no names, but they've been suffering from them quite a bit, on and off in the last 6 months as well. And what else is there? Sore legs. Like my knee for the last 2 weeks was swelling. I was like, what's this all about? And then somebody else will send a message saying, oh, you might notice swollen limbs or swollen knees or what have you. So this is now making me think, because we know about the planets and because we know about the powers that are trying to do things around the planets, it's a bit like, okay, so really and truly, us being sick, is that us actually being sick at all? Or is that with the med system, they're trying to stop our ascension? So that we can carry on with their system? That is a very good question mark now. Because just general flu or other things, and then they'll quickly give you that. Because, see? So if anybody actually goes back to the beginning of the most recent medical history, you'll find that a certain R fella, not going to say anything else, was originally an oil tycoon. And they created the med system, like no background whatsoever in medical, but they found that through drugs and other things that they could make a profit. So now it's a bit like, okay, are you actually, by giving people medication, slowing down what is meant to be their natural ascension?
Can I just add something to that, Jenny?
Please.
The guy that you're talking about, the one with the R, he actually came out and said back then, I think it was in the early 1900s, early 1900s, he said, and all healers, all holistic therapists are charlatans. Don't listen
100%.
to them, they're charlatans. He actually said that. Now there's more and more people coming forward now saying that actually, this stuff works. I mean, my teacher, Marissa Peer, with the RTT that I'm doing now, my teacher, Marissa Peer, and the tribe of people that she's teaching are now healing things like fibromyalgia. Have I said that right, Jenny?
Fibromyalgia, yeah.
Healing people with this, healing people with back conditions,
healing
people with chronic conditions because they have old belief systems in place, and stuck emotions in the body. And so holistic therapies do work, and the work that you're doing, Jenny, I mean, I've been listening to the people that you've been working with, and I know that you're helping these people so much. So this guy coming out and saying all this back then is total crap and propaganda, to be fair.
Yeah, well, it's just exactly, Emma, and that's really well said, because that's just going back to the days of old where they used to burn the witches at the stake. You know, it was like, these people are actually out here to help you. But it's not a case of like they want to bring their system into what it is, isn't it? It's easier to keep everyone ill and as slaves, and you know, keeping them into the life that they're accustomed, when really and truly this place is meant to be a place of equality for us all, in magnitude of abundance of everything for everyone. So, and that's how they've created this mindset in everybody of scarcity and lack and victim and all that jazz, and illness now as well, because that adds into it, when really and truly our state of being is just meant to be to surrender, to flow, to be happy. Remember, we're born into a life of bliss and happiness and love. Like we are taught all the negative programming.
Exactly.
So
like if you go back to like a baby, when you see babies and children playing together, they're just totally present. Present, and they're happy, they're not thinking about anything. But then they get to the age of 7 when their minds are not in theta, because before the age of 7 our minds are in theta and we're just downloading information at an alarming rate. So that's why we learn so quick. That's why you see all these kids skiing, you know, and then after the age of 7 the mind goes into different brainwaves. So the brain goes into different brainwaves, like alpha. Alpha's still a great state, but like beta, it goes more into beta. Then we have to learn by repetition. So, you know,
Yeah,
worry
it is.
about
But
the
it's
children.
quite an
Yeah.
interesting when we think about what's going on at the moment, you know, because everybody's like, "Ugh, I'm ill, I've got the flu, or what have you," and it's like, well, if the powers that be knew that the planets were going to have this effect on us as a whole, you know, um,
Yeah.
they could, and then bringing in what they have with this whole whatever this is, illness or what have you. And I'm not saying this to say to people, oh, it doesn't exist or what have you, but those of us
No, it
that have
does.
really researched, you'll find that you've literally got every single illness within you. It's just all depends on what you do with your body to be able to activate that illness within you, you know. But if the powers that be already knew that with the planets, that this massive ascension awakening was about to happen, well, don't you think it's rather nicely timed that people can be
Yeah.
told, oh, you're ill, you know,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that,
yeah.
oh, you're actually ascending and you're going to be leaving like the system, because then freedom, powers to the people, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't say to anybody, like, if anybody came to me with depression and they was on antidepressants, I'd never say to them, stop the antidepressants. I'd say
No,
use the Western and the Eastern methods together,
100%,
and see which ones work for you best. But since,
100%.
I mean, you and I, Jenny, we're the same age. We're 44,
Well,
right?
I'm not yet, but give me a
Well,
break.
oh,
Nearly.
sorry, 43, youngster.
Only just.
So I've never felt so healthy in my life.
Yeah.
I remember being 34 before this. I started doing this work, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel like this. I've got so much more energy. I don't have a day's illness.
Yeah.
And I'm, most of the time I feel energetic. I feel healthy.
Right.
And I put it down to the work that I've done on myself, because I've
100%.
cleared
And
out all
I
the
think, Emma,
trauma,
what
all
happens
the
is that's all a part of the journey, isn't it? Like, because once we start connecting, we start realizing, right, it's not actually just about the outside, it's really and truly about the inside out. And once we start connecting mind, body, and soul, as you know, Marissa Peer and the person that I absolutely adore's work, folks, please go check out Marissa Peer and Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is amazing. He's another one out there who's now bringing the scientific neurological evidence to, how once a person's negative or conditioned mindset that is programmed then switches and changes. Literally, he's been helping people to walk, like helping people with
I've heard this.
cancer,
Yeah.
again, like you said, all these different things, because it's all in a mindset. They say like, as we already know, Emma, the majority of our emotions are stored in our body, and that's what can make us ill. But it's only in the last, I think it's 30 years that I've been reading, that the Tort Medical Institute have now started realizing everything's not just in the mind. It's body mind work, because they're both related. When you think about it, your mind is like this, and then your body is, you've got 5-6 major organs down there. So to be honest, like, your body is telling your mind what to do more than the other way around, except for they program us to make us think it's the other way around, that we've got to do everything with our mind. That's the way we've got to think, and we've got to do everything in our heads. But when we strip things back, I think if someone checks my highlights, I've done something about thinking in your mind. Think of your mind as a business or a company. So Emma, your mind is a business or a company. How many, like, say your thoughts are your product? Yeah, I'll do this on you now. What's the quality of your product? You don't need to say, just think about it. Yeah.
The quality of my product.
Yeah,
What is
right.
the quality?
So your thoughts are your product. Yeah. So you are the CEO of your mind. Your mind is your business. Your thoughts is your thoughts are your product. Yeah. What is the quality of your product, and how much are you producing every day of your product?
Oh, that's a good question, Jenny. I'll have to have a think about that. I don't really know the answer. Well,
just take a random guess. Like,
okay, so at the moment, my product is on the top shelf. Not that kind of top shelf. Not that kind of top shelf.
Nothing wrong with the top shelf, Em.
Doesn't have them anymore. My mind is at the moment like really quality. It's good quality. It's in good nick. It's in good nick. Yeah, because I've trained it to be that way.
Okay.
And it's producing really well. Yeah, it's doing all right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then if you think about roughly how much of your product are you producing every day?
Oh God. Masses. I
Brandon?
mean, we think 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah. So if
That's
we
a lot.
actually
That's a
think
conveyor
about
belt.
that, like it's different for you and I because we know part of this information and that's part of our learning. But for the general public out there, because we've all been programmed and conditioned with the 3D mind and scarcity and lack, we are actually, the majority of people, they would go bankrupt because they wouldn't know how much of their product that they're producing, and the quality of their product wouldn't be good.
I think like
you know,
when we watch the television, our minds go into the alpha brainwave, which means our minds are more open to suggestion. So when we're watching the television, we actually go into hypnosis. So if we're watching channels like the news all of the time, it's going to change our subconscious beliefs without us even knowing it. And plus advertisement is like totally, how many adverts do we have a day? How many news bulletins are there a day? Why is there like 6 news bulletins? Just fear. No, I don't know. I've got a television, don't even watch it. I had to stop listening to the radio as well. But this is the kind of indoctrination we're getting daily, or trying to.
Exactly.
I try to not pay for my TV license because I don't watch it. But they told me if I don't get a TV license, and this changed in 3 days because I checked it 3 days before, they said that I didn't need a TV license to watch Netflix. 3 days later, I was told because I watch Netflix, I had to have a TV license. So why are they constantly getting us to pay?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a new one. Interesting.
Right? And also I said, I want to cancel. They said, well, you can only cancel for 2 years. I said, I can only cancel for 2 years. I'm not going to be living here in a year. Then we're going to keep sending you letters. So I said, I can't choose when I want to switch off your television for good then. So, you know, when you think of it like that, there's all these little it's like a spider's web, you know, which is weird. They're trying to just get us in the middle and contain
So
us.
out of the 60, like each of us, we produce 60 in general, 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Yeah, Emma? We only need 500 thoughts to get us through the day. So that means we are projecting everything else and everyone else and everything else around us, you know? So this is where we get into like overthinking mode, because really truly, if we strip it back, it could be a simple thing, you know, you're going out to work in the morning. Oh, I need to go and take the bin out. Oh, that person's in my way as I'm walking around. Oh, you know what I mean? And that just builds up. So really and truly, we're actually giving ourselves extra unnecessary headache.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, there's ways around that as well. So if anybody needs any help with that as well, please DM me, get in touch. You've got Emma as well, Emma the Heartbreak Healer. We will both be happy. Yes, we will help you unlearn. Yes, because life has been learning, and now the whole point of going into 4D and 5D, for those that are willing, it's all now about unlearning and relearning about your true self, your true authenticity, who you are, where you come from. And that's exactly what we do. And I'm really blessed in the fact that my first cycle of the work that I was doing, like literally everyone who completed it has had 100% turnaround of thinking mindset, you know, to the point that they're now telling me, I don't need you, I've got all the tools, Jen. And I'm just like, you know, and I'm totally grateful and overwhelmed. But that was the whole entire point, because I don't know about you, Emma, I don't believe in creating a codependent relationship. Don't get me wrong, people can come to us for different things. However, you know, these therapists that have like their people for like 25, 30 plus years. I'm almost like,
that's a lifetime.
yeah, and I'm just like, they're just taking your money. Are they not good at their job? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why are you still there?
Well,
so,
it's kind of like our attention span has like dropped very significantly over the last few years, and people want quick and quick stuff to happen to them. They don't want to be in a chair for days, months, or years. They want something to happen really quickly, and they want it now. And that's the culture that we're living in now. And that's what I love about you and I's therapies, because they are super quick, you know.
And then you just it's almost like we let our babies back out into the wild, you know. It's just like, there you are, you know, and we get to connect with more of our soul family. So it's win-win. We're getting to live our purpose and our dream, and we're truly grateful. Emma's doing RTT, folks, for those that want to look into that. Like I said, check out Marissa Peer. I do a lot of work that is kind of Dr. Joe Dispenza based, and then I also culminate a lot of my own therapies to help people through that at the same time. So it's like a program. All of my folks had like turnarounds within 6 to 8 weeks, and then towards the end it was almost like boom, we started manifesting. You know, they got new jobs, one started a business, the other one's called in a new partner, and that's materialized as well. So thank you, universe, truly grateful.
So what therapies do you do exactly? I mean, if you could like pinpoint, say,
for me personally, so I have studied in obviously 500 hours yoga first of all, then I was making a Reiki master in my second month as well of studying. What else have I studied? Tarot cards along the way as well. I do teaching women and men how to become more sexually intimate, sexual intimacy. Emotional unavailability is also a speciality of mine, and I'll be doing some more talks about that also with you and with George in the future. What else do I know? Breathwork. Of course, that's how I met you. Of course. I love holding ceremonies as well, healing ceremonies, cacao ceremonies, sacred ceremonies, goddess empowering ceremonies as well, just a general inspiration. That is my skill. I've been doing it for years anyway with people. You'll tend to find those people, empaths, have been healers all of their lives, because they've always been the one that everyone comes to. So it's almost like a natural progression now for me to just be doing that along my way.
Also, Jenny, I will add to your list there. Just being in your company is enough to ascend you anyway, because your energy is like,
Emma, you can't make this shoes up. Thank you, darling.
You're just a natural healer. Your energy is infectious, honestly. When we chat on the phone afterwards, it's like, I'm up in the 12th dimension, you know, just above there.
Oh, do you know what? Do you know what, Em? I think the thing, like, and thank you so much, Chloe, for that. The thing is, for me, like, we're so, you know what I'm liking? I'm just like, it's all a game show out there. It's all a mirage. Everything's Maya.
Honestly,
you know, the word Maya, if anybody doesn't know, in Sanskrit, it means illusion. And this is what in original India, traditional yoga, that's what they believe the whole of life is. It's all Maya, it's all an illusion. So really and truly, Emma, we're having this conversation now, but how do we know we're not sleeping? How do we know that when we go to sleep, that's not our real life? We don't. So why are we getting so upset about what's happening, whether it's day or night? Because we don't even know which one is which really anyway.
Well, I heard when we go to sleep, our soul goes on a little journey. And to think that when our soul is going to stay in our body whilst we're sleeping, no, apparently it goes on this little journey and it goes into other dimensions and other rounds. And then you think, well, sometimes when you have these really weird, wild dreams, you think, maybe there's something in this.
Yes.
But I know exactly what you're saying. How do we know that we're not asleep?
We don't, exactly.
Right
We don't. Exactly. I just want to end with Kaylee's question, which was, are there any ascension symptoms which aren't pleasant? So Kaylee, thank you first of all for watching, and also for your question. Ascension symptoms that are not pleasant. Well, is being ill pleasant? Do you know what I mean? Like, just in general, I'm very much matter of fact. So some people, like Emma said, can have purging. So that could be tummy upsets, being sick, having the down belows as well. So again, my knee was swollen for the best part of the last 10 days. And I wanted to do kickboxing, and it's just a little bit aggravating. Flu is obviously that way inclined as well. Crown headaches. A lot of people that get migraines, how do we know they're actually migraines and they're not just ascension symptoms? Because migraines are known to be specifically in the crown. Question mark.
It's a really good question.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, you know, now that we're starting to become more aware, is it a case of, are we actually ill? And what you'll tend to find is those that do have flu symptoms and that recover really quickly, that tends to be a definite ascension symptom. Like me, I used to be the first in the house with my family when I used to live at mum's to always get ill. And then I'd be like fine within 2-3 days, and then the rest of the house would get it 2-3 days later, and I'd be fine. But now that I'm starting to realize, it was like, oh, it was a form of, you know, ascension, and we don't know this because we're not told this. And you know, is what it is. But I think, like, gassed enough now, Em.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I feel like when that sun goes down and when it gets dark, it's like I go down with it, you know.
Whereas me, I come away. This is my witching hour now.
I know. I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much, Emma, for coming on.
Pleasure. It's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure. I love being here.
So much fun.
Let's make it
everybody,
every Monday.
Yes, we will be connecting on Mondays, folks. Emma, you can find her at Emma, the Heartbreak Healer. Are you underscore? Or are you not? No, just Emma, the Heartbreak Healer. There we go. At Emma, the Heartbreak Healer. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching, and all that jazz. I hope you found something useful out of this. Sending so much love to you all. I love you. I love you. I love you. Emma, I love you. I love you. I love you. Mwah.
Love you.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.